people always say, well, but I ate those things when I was growing up and I'm fine.
Look, the reality is 50 years ago, people were 50 pounds lighter. Our mitochondria literally don't work the way they used to. Fruit Loops is not normal. Our bread is not normal. Our French fries are not normal.
If we had to go to war in America, we could not field an army of healthy enough people to do that.
Here's the reality. We're in a disaster state. 9 out of 10 people are sick right now. Sick is normal. There are 2 out of 10 9-year-olds in my kids' class have fatty liver right now. So sick has become normal, and this is not acceptable. We have to change.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Carnivore Revolution. I'm Serena, and my special guest today is Dr. Tro, and I'm super excited about this conversation because we've been trying to have this very conversation for about 2.5 years. We're both just super busy. Dr. Tro has lots of exciting things going on, so we're going to talk to him today about what made him be like the oddball doctor that wants to do things naturally and healthily and prescribe kind of lifestyle instead of medicine. So Dr. Tro, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with me 2 years later. I mean, what an honor to be here. So grateful. I know it's tough, also sort of being a, my wife is also in the space where we're trying to get people healthy and getting them good food and good quality options. And so, you look at the entire cosmetic space, the food space, and it's just, it's a landmine. So kudos to you for trying to step the game up out of the industry and go down on your own. So, and happy to be here, super happy to be here.
Yeah. And when I look back on, I know the last 4 years, I've been carnivore a little more than 4 years, but past that even, I think my first real introduction to a YouTube channel or a personality as far as low carb or health goes was Dr. Eric Berg, probably when my kids were babies. So we're talking about 16 years ago, something like that, a really long time ago. And the idea that people like me and people like you would be in a Make America Healthy Again group with Dr. Berg is just mind blowing that that's where we are in America, that it's that important that even celebrity doctors are putting together these groups of people to come out and talk about the health of America, the health of Americans, the way we can fix this. And I just think it's so important to keep these conversations going. And this is not a political thing. So some people probably turn this off when I said the Make America Healthy Again thing. This is not a political thing, though. This is about the health of Americans and the fact that if we had to go to war in America, we could not field an army of healthy enough people to do that.
Yeah, look, here's the reality. We're in a disaster state, okay? 9 out of 10 people are sick right now. Sick is normal. We're such a sick society that sick looks normal to us. Arthritis looks normal with age. Diabetes is something that happens at 50. Fatty liver is just, is affecting our kids. 20% of children, right? We were just talking about our kids before we started, and I have a 9-year-old. There are 2 out of 10 9-year-olds in my kids' class have fatty liver right now. So sick has become normal, and this is not acceptable, right? And we need radical change. Right now, if you're paying attention to the news, you may have seen somebody from the CDC was fired. You may have seen people coming and going, and you're saying, what is going on? Maybe you heard that the COVID vaccines were relegated only to people at high risk. And it is scary. It is frustrating for the average person. There's a lot of change happening right now. And doctors are scared. In fact, many doctors are worried. In fact, RFK went on the air and said he is so heartbroken at seeing kids with metabolic disease. He was in an airport saying, and there was a celebrity sort of doctor who said, look at this new mitochondrial dysfunction that RFK is making up. And I simply went to PubMed and I typed in mitochondrial dysfunction and showed him how many articles there are now. I think people are so scared and they're so worried about change, and yet we are so desperate for help, they're just not facing the reality. And I'm here as a rude awakener for all the doctors out there. You need to face reality. We have failed. public health wise, we have failed the people with diabetes. We have failed people with obesity. We've failed people with heart disease, hypertension, and cancer. We have failed the infertility epidemic and the fatty liver epidemic. And if we don't do something to change right now, what we are doing is we're saying we're okay with more people losing life and limb. And it's just not okay for me, right? The status quo is not acceptable. And so we have to change.
Yeah. And I think you're right. We're, talking about how it's so normal. People think nothing of it at 45 or 50 years old when they have to take blood pressure medication and cholesterol medication. Like, it's just, like you said, it just becomes such a normal thing. And I think that is why it's so hard, because when you go to the grocery store, everybody has the stuff from the middle of the store in their grocery cart. Everybody has Hostess cupcakes. Everybody has pancake mix and fake maple syrup. And everybody has those things in their cart. So it's normal to eat that way. So you tell them that you're taking away their Bisquick, and you tell them you're taking away their log cabin syrup, and people freak out. They think, well, but, and this is something I was talking to some friends about today, is people always say, well, but I ate those things when I was growing up and I'm fine. And you see all those memes going around that says, this is not the same as what you ate when you were younger. That product now and that product then. And like the breads, like the Hostess breads had 6 or 7 ingredients in it when we were younger, and now they've got 30 or something. And so all of those things, people think, oh, it's just a little bit of bread. It's just a little bit of chips. It's just a little bit of soda. But all of those things add up and lead us to where we are metabolically and as far as our health goes too, because it's not only about metabolic stuff. It's about everything, right?
Yeah. Look, the reality is 50 years ago, people were 50 pounds lighter. So maybe, and on occasion, right, maybe a little bit of heavy whipping cream, and that's cooled with, and a tad bit of sugar and some vanilla extract wasn't a big deal, right? But that's not the case now, right? We are overweight. Not only are we overweight, but we're metabolically dysfunctioned. Our mitochondria literally don't work the way they used to. We've had to deal with contaminants in our foods, pollution. We've had to deal with processed sugar since inception, right? So this is the real issue. The real issue is that we've accepted disease, and we've accepted our food and sort of our industrial lives as normal, and it's not normal. Okay, Fruit Loops is not normal. Our bread is not normal. Our French fries are not normal. The birthday cake that we have, I mean, gosh, the ice cream every minute is not normal. The crumble cookies are not normal. They're so not normal. And people don't want to hear that, because it's tough. It's like, we love these things. They taste good. They're part of our rituals. They're part of our birthdays and our, like, we don't want to hear that our cosmetic supply is not normal. Right? The lipstick you put on, the deodorant you put on, the water you drink, what ions are added to that by the government, right? What halogenated bromides, right, are added to that. Right? We just accept this as normal. It's just not normal. These are all new phenomenon. The vegetable oils that we use are a 50-year, it's not like this lifelong tradition. So here's a reality, okay? And it's a wake-up call for everybody. Start eating real food, right? Start getting radically healthy. Start examining what you put on your body, in your mouth, right? And when you start to do that, you're going to get a little uncomfortable, right? When you're, at the regular old birthday and you're having the crackers for appetizer and the chips for appetizer, and you're at the, sort of doing the potato salad for, with your protein at lunch, and then for dessert, you're having cookies and cake, right? Just take a second. What am I putting in me, right? And when you start to open up and think about what are these things that I'm putting inside of me, should I take a pause to think about that? Your life will start to change. Like, where'd this come from? Is it helping me? Can I do better? Those questions will go such a long way to getting me healthy.
Yeah, and people will say things like, oh, but I only have crumble cookie once a week. Oh, but I only eat McDonald's once a week. But it's once a week McDonald's. It's the crumble cookie once a week. It's the ice cream you had while you were watching TV once a week. It's the, the half a bag potato chips you ate with your lunch once a week that, are fried in seed oils. It's the, the Subway sandwich you had once a week. It's people don't look at the big picture and like add those things up and say, oh gosh, I'm having these things because it's all the same. Like you can't look at it and say, but I'm only having crumble cookie once a week. It's because so many of the other things you're eating once or twice a week are made just like that.
Look, here's the problem. There are so many exceptions, right? 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, you didn't have access to ice cream at every minute, right? We didn't have, when you walk down the grocery aisle, there weren't 150 varieties of cereal and 150 varieties of chips and 150 varieties of soda. They were truly something that happened on occasion. There is no more on occasion. My kids right now, they go to school, they get junk. They go to a friend's house, they get junk, right? They, literally we go out, you better expect it's junk. We try to go to good restaurants, but so just think about how much of that, right, is junk, right? You can't trust their friend's house. You can't trust the school, right? And, there's junk everywhere in our modern world. So even if you keep your home clean, right? And we pretty much have, protein, vegetables, fruits in our home. They're still at the whim of everybody else being a user. And it reminds me of like, you're a history buff. This is like, I'd imagine this is what like the opium wars were like, 150 years ago. I mean, everybody's using this addictive thing and it's like normal. And it took centuries, like not centuries, decades, to really reverse course, right? And teach people this is not normal. This is highly addictive food. This processed food is harmful. And it took a long time. Society really had to wake up and be like, this is not acceptable. And I'm happy to like serve on the SMHP, the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, work with Maha Action, work with Nutrition Coalition, work with the Bazooki Group, work with Dr. Berg, and to promote what we all know reverses chronic disease. Chronic disease in our modern world is caused by processed carbohydrates, sugar, and processed oils. Full stop, right? These are the big three. Get them out of your life and you're doing great. If you get them out of your food supply, you're doing great. If you get them out of your food supply and your cosmetics, you're doing amazing. If you do that, there's not much disease left to fight. There's not much chronic disease left to fight. If you get it out of your kid's life, they're going to get healthy. If you get it out of your life, you're going to get healthy. And if you get it out of your and your family's life, guess what? That's contagious.
Yes.
Right? The New England Journal of Medicine article looking at how obesity spreads in social networks, even happiness and depression spread in social networks. If you get healthy, you're going to get everybody around you healthy, right? You're going to drag your kids in, then you're going to drag your family in, then you're going to drag your friends in. And this is how we change the world.
Yeah. And dare I put down the Lord's chicken, but so many people think Chick-fil-A is healthier. Like when they're going to eat out, they will only eat at Chick-fil-A because it's so much healthier. And I don't know if people know this, I'm assuming they don't, that the original fried chicken sandwich at Chick-fil-A has like 130 ingredients in it or something like, and it didn't used to be made that way. They used to boast about how their chicken was like antibiotic free and hormone free or something like that. And they just very quietly removed that from their packaging, from their labels without saying anything to anybody. And then proceeded over the last, however many years, add 30, 40, 50, 60 ingredients to that sandwich. And people still believe that that's the better option when they're going to go out for fast food. That's hard as a parent. I sat at Chick-fil-A yesterday after a volleyball game, with everybody eating Chick-fil-A, knowing that, and then when I started talking about it, it became uncomfortable and everybody was like, we're done. Well, they're wanting to close. We got to go.
Look, I got to tell you, it's good we're talking about fast food. I have simple heuristics and my family does this. Look, you do your best no matter what's available. So if you need fast food, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, give me 4 to 8 hamburger patties, right? And some salt and some pickles.
Yeah.
Right? That's my best, right? Like if I need a convenient meal and I've decided I need a convenient meal, that's my go-to.
Right.
If I happen to be somewhere where there's only Chick-fil-A, okay, look, the grilled nuggets have a ton of additives and they have a ton of starch that they add in there, but that's probably what I would get. Or I would fast, right? And if it was my family, that's probably what I suggest they get, But I don't convince myself any of that is health food. I made the heuristic, it's convenience.
Yeah.
Right. And you can still be relatively healthy and convenient. I mean, I think I've seen people reverse disease, going to McDonald's every day, getting hamburger patties with cheese, even though I love their cheese, and with bacon, even though I love their bacon. Right.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I've seen people reverse tons of disease doing that. So, and it's cheap. I mean, imagine being able to go anywhere in the country, being within 5 minutes. I got no stock in McDonald's, getting 4 hamburger patties, 4 sides of cheese, 4 sides of bacon for about $12.
Right.
I mean, that's a steal, and you can do a lot of good. And you know what? It's much better than the French fries and apple pie that you probably would have had, with the Big Mac and the shake.
Yeah. And every change adds up. So you can start with all these little tiny changes that end up being big changes. Like the next time you go ahead and get your Big Mac if that's what you want, but get it without the bun and forego the fries, and get yourself some water, or there's no drinks that would, really be acceptable, but just cut down on the carbs, cut down on the sugar, cut down on the starches. Things will start to change because all those little changes end up being a big change. And we're not saying you'll never have a chocolate chip cookie again, but here's the thing. There is a huge difference in making that chocolate chip cookie at home using 6 or 7 ingredients than there is buying them out or buying a package of chocolate chip cookies. Wouldn't you agree? Making those things from scratch, and maybe all the ingredients in your house aren't perfect, but there's still going to be a fraction of the ingredients in those cookies you want to make for your kids. So we're not saying you can't ever have those things and you can't ever make those things for your kids, but do it at home so you know what goes in them. There's a huge difference in making those things from scratch and buying them.
I'm going to say, when you say make it from scratch, if you meant like literally taking the wheat germ and like grinding it, right, then we're maybe saying the same thing because you knew there was no glyphosate on that wheat.
Right.
But it's like getting flour and making an Oreo cookie, that's just from the store versus you buying an Oreo cookie. I don't think that's too different. But to your point, like if you have the opportunity to make something at home, what are you going to do? The first thing you're going to do is be like, why am I buying this bleach, glyphosate-laden flour? Let me get some almond flour, right? Let me get some coconut flour, right? Why would I use a crap ingredient on my family when I can use something good? And then the next thing you're going to do is when you see that recipe, you're going to say, why am I using the most highly processed soybean oil to make this cookie?
Right.
Like, gosh, I could use avocado oil or some heavy cream or whatever, eggs.
Or butter.
Right, or butter. Yeah, exactly. I could use whatever else.
Yeah.
Right. So you're going to start to think, I think the big part of making it from scratch is, wait a second, I don't have to accept crappy ingredients.
Right.
And then, once you get to the sweetness, that's a tricky discussion. If you're young and healthy, maybe you can get away with a bit of cane sugar or something like that. But, if you have diabetes or significant metabolic disease, maybe you think, okay, should I use allulose here? Should I use monk fruit? What can I do, to make this better for me and my family? So I think, there's this big movement and like Food Babe talks about this, making food at home. And I got nothing wrong with it, right? Make your food at home, but it's an opportunity to get rid of the highly glycemic carbs and the additives and but our food supply is so co-opted, right? When you buy that bag of flour, you might as well buy Bayer glyphosate because that's what you're getting, right? Yeah. When you buy that bag of sugar, you might as well get the Bayer glyphosate because that's what you're getting. So I think, it's really hard. But so making food from home is an opportunity to swap out the highly glycemic carbs and put in something just a little bit more higher quality. I can't see a reason other than having maybe high oxalates to not swap flour for almond flour. And if you do have high oxalates, go to the coconut flour.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you. So when I say making it from scratch at home, I mean, obviously using the best ingredients without the preservatives and, and all those kinds of things. I think that in general, obviously you want to choose really good, high quality ingredients, but I still think there's a difference because you don't get all the preservatives and things like that if you're like, you go to the grocery store, those, those cookies have 30 or 40 ingredients in them. Like, you can't, the list is this long sometimes.
So that's the problem, right? They've already gotten smart to that, right? So they're like, all of the industry has shifted. If I mean, you started your journey 4 years ago. I mean, maybe you're still examining the labels like I'm examining them. They are shifting. They're doing exactly what I would do if I was an evil food company.
Yeah.
Right. They're minimizing their ingredients. Right. And it's a slightly better, certain they're thinking about how long is this ingredient list. They know what they're doing. It doesn't take away, the heavy metals that are cut in our industrialized food. That's still in there. The stuff that's sprayed on our food that we don't really think about, that's still in there. And the biggest offending agent is the highly processed, carbohydrates.
Yeah.
That's the biggest offense in the modern food supply. There's all these other offending agents, but that biggest offense is still there. And they're doing that with the soda. You could see it most readily with the soda. All the companies have switched to like these fruit seltzers, right? Because they know that we're coming after the soda first. And there's all these, fruit juice, seltzers coming out, sweetened fruit juice seltzers. It's a brilliant tactic based on the food industry, but unfortunately, we need to go all in. We need to say, not only are we going homemade, but we're also going low glycemic, low carb. I think they got to go hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things that I wanted to talk to you about, and you just mentioned all the glyphosate and all those kinds of things, all the stuff that's sprayed on our foods, even the foods we think are healthy are sprayed with all of that. You can't wash it off. You can't get it all off. And so I wanted to talk to you about the liability shield thing that they are offering for these companies that are doing all of the spraying with all the pesticides and everything like that. And then they are maybe going to get this liability shield, which means that if we get sick and it's proven that it is from those things, bless you. If we get sick and it's proven that it's from glyphosate and that it's from all of those pesticides, that we can't sue those companies, which kind of means they can do whatever they want and it doesn't matter. So how do you feel about that? What do you think about that liability shield?
Yeah, nobody, like, first of all, it belongs nowhere in this. Like, whether you did it by error or omission or fraud, we all need to be held accountable. Right. And it doesn't mean, a jury determines the extent to which we're held accountable. Like, look, as a physician, if I make an error, right, I'm liable for my actions, right? If I make an error, if I omit something, I don't tell somebody something I should have, I'm liable for these actions, and I'm still human. Yes. But I mean, this is why we have insurance, and this is why we have, legal proceedings and judges and juries, so we can sort of determine, what's fair and what's appropriate. Now, for a company to be shielded, right? I think that's it's a problem in pharmaceuticals. I think it's absolutely a problem in industrialized products that we use. I understand that the pharmaceutical field is out to help humanity. I understand that the big ag is out to help humanity, feed humanity, but nobody should get a pass, right? And whatever pass you give, it's going to be abused, not necessarily by one person, but by a culture and a business entity, right? We're in a capitalistic culture, which means, and I embrace it. I love it. I love this capitalist. I love America. I think it's the greatest. But we have to be honest that if you give somebody a pass, it creates a power differential which rewards greed, right? And not sort of righteous greed. Like, fine, go be greedy, but do good unto the world, right? Provide a service. So when you give that legal protection, right, you're sort of like removing that righteous element that's so beautiful in the American system, right? We don't allow, like, imagine we gave a liability shield to drug dealers. Like, nobody would accept that, right? Nobody would accept that. Of course, we support freedom in this country. Of course, we support capitalism, but nobody would support giving a liability shield to the, cartel in Mexico, right? So I don't understand why we're even discussing that with big agriculture or big pharma. It's great that they have noble intentions, but, the path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah. And so
I can't take a little bit of a roundabout answer,
Yeah, but what I don't understand is why we're even entertaining this. I mean, who is this okay with besides those companies, right? Like, what is Bobby thinking here? What is our current administration even thinking, considering something like this that could, cause what you said? Like it makes this like loophole for them. They can pretty much do whatever they want and they can make us all sick, and then it just doesn't even matter.
Look, there's a lot of exceptions. The problem is, well, let's say it's like COVID, and let's say it's like the first month and the whole world is worried and everything is locked down. Well, some of these people need a liability shield just to get their employees to work, right? Like if there's a mandate to close, that everybody must stay home. Well, wait a second, I'm a meat packer, I'm a farmer. Like you have to protect me if you want me to do this service which is feed the world, right?
Right.
So I think liability shields have a purpose. It's a case by case basis, but then once the situation changes, and I hate to use COVID as an example of that, but like once we knew that this is just a respiratory virus, everybody's going to be fine, let's all get back to work. Like those liability shields need to go away. And liability shields have like there's these small exceptions that we can find, but it's got to be a case by case basis done by people that understand the whole scenario. And there's got to be some sort of like limit to time. Like you can't just have this liability shield. Like, the vaccine producers have had a liability shield for decades. For what? For what purpose?
Right.
We can do, they have enough money now to do multi-year placebo-controlled trials. Like we don't need a liability shield. And it's not necessary in where we are now. Maybe in 1983, when everybody was scared because the swine flu vaccine from 76 caused Guillain-Barré syndrome in, thousands of people, maybe then we needed a liability shield just for the industry to make some vaccines, right? Like make these things and produce these things, right? But it's no longer serving its initial purpose. So these like endless liability shields that are now, just a vehicle for greed, they need to go. Sorry if you went into policy, and these can get like
No.
even the weeds here,
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I also wanted to talk to you because that's one of the things that shocked me the most recently, especially with all of this movement that is happening right now to get people healthier. Just really surprised me when I heard that was even something that we would consider. We're coming down on the vaccines and the FDA and all this, and then like all of a sudden out of nowhere, there's this chance that we might give this giant company that liability shield. And so that just really surprises me. And then you wonder, the big wigs and those companies, what do they feed their families? It reminds me of like Aaron Brockovich. Do you remember that movie? Like, don't you want to like try to give them some of the glyphosate and see if they'll eat it or drink it? Like, it just really surprises me that that's something that we're even still considering doing in today's environment with this.
Well, it's funny you say that. I mean, I had a glyphosate promoter 3 years ago say it's safe, and I was like, great, I'm gonna pour glyphosate for you, and I want to watch you drink it. He said it's safe, and they were like, no way, right? They were trying to dodge the question. So I think their definition of safe fits like this obscure, narrow, so like I always like to give credence to how people think. They look at it as some obscure. So your and my definition of safety probably means multi-year, potentially multi-generational studies showing no harm, right? Because it's a food supply. How does it affect me? How does it affect my kids? How does it affect my kids' kids, right? What is a long-term thing? Is this something I'm going to accept every day for a long time? So you want to know the long-term implications. Industry has a different definition of safe. For them, it's like, what is the amount needed to cause toxic harm in the next like day, right? Or immediately, right? So of course they wouldn't look at it that way, right? It suits them, it suits their purpose. But us as the end consumer of the product, right? That's not what we care about, right? Like, I don't care if I'm going to die a day. I want to know what's going to happen in 5 years when I do this every day. Mm-hmm. So when you talk to some of these terrible, terrible scientists out there, and promoters of industry, they have this point of view. And I don't want to say it's an illegitimate point of view. It's a reasonable point of view as like a safety scientist or whatever. or a regulatory scientist, right? But that's like the bare minimum, right? It's not good enough for you, me, and my kids, right? Like, I want more. I want more for them, right? They deserve more.
Yeah, they absolutely do. We deserve more too.
Yeah, and that's the problem. So with the industry saying, well, look, the EPA approved these things, so the states shouldn't be able to hold us liable, right? Like, that's the argument they're making, and I get it. And I would want to make that view if I was them. I would want them to take that view if I was a greedy company making profit for my glyphosate, right?
Right.
But as the end user, nobody wants that view. And somebody up there in the government has to decide, who are we going to cater to and to what degree? And I don't think there's anybody better than the regime we have right now to make a consumer-friendly point of view. Now, I don't know what that'll look like in the end, but I know I understand how we got here. It's not nobody likes the fact that we're discussing these things, but public policy is messy.
Right.
So we'll see where we end up. But, bottom line, like, if we had to accept some sort of state immunity in exchange for long-term studies, I don't, something like that, like, I'll leave that to the public policy people,
Yeah.
But it's tough. It's tough. It's certainly not what I want for my kids.
Right. Yeah. And it feels like when we're all sitting around saying, why would they even consider that? It seems like a money thing. Like, what is this? This is just another version of what's been going on, with the FDA and with all the, all of those government companies or government areas in charge of health. Is this just another one of those things where, they're in the pocket of these big companies and that's why they just kind of let everything go?
Absolutely. Like, regulatory capture is a huge thing, right? Like, the minute they leave the industry, the minute they leave, the federal government, they go work for industry, they get, handsome salaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's absolutely true. It is a very known phenomenon.
Yeah.
It captures their brains, the way they think, right? When you're going to be paid by somebody, you're going to think, how can I sort of let them go? Or how can I view it from their standpoint, right? Much more easily. But, like, this is where we have to, like, demand more, right? Like, the consumer doesn't have a organized body to lobby for it. So we need minds in the government that can balance between the two, right? We need an industry, right? Like, healthcare is the biggest industry right now in the country. We need an agricultural industry, right? They're the people, they're the farmers feeding us, right? And feeding our cow and feeding our pigs and feeding our, chickens. But we need to balance the needs of industry with the needs of the end user. And I think for the longest time, we've sacrificed the end user, right? And we got to figure out ways to not do that, right? We can be a free market capitalistic society and still sort of protect the end user. It's hard, but we can protect the end user. And I think there's like the team now, it's the right team to do that, the right balance. So I know a lot of people have been critical of MAHA because maybe they took away the EUA, but they approved a new vaccine in high risk groups, right? You may have seen that in the news, but that's a huge change. Yeah. They went from giving this to every, 6-month-old to actually you cannot give it to 6-month-old. You need to have a discussion with your doctor about risk and benefit. So it is a huge step in the right direction, right? And I think it also gives a bit of liberty. Like, we have these products. There may be somebody out there who wants it for whatever reason. I don't think that's smart. Well, for whatever reason, right? And they need to be able to have the discussion with their doctor and see if it's right for them. So I think the way that they're going right now, at least on the FDA front, has been a step in the right direction. I think Vinay Prasad has done amazing.
Yeah, I agree with that. So what about, you've mentioned a couple of times while we've been talking, you've mentioned cosmetics, and people think, well, I'm just putting that on my skin. It doesn't matter. I like to say, if you couldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. So let's talk about that briefly. Why would you not want to use the toxic products on your skin?
So the Daily Mail and the Guardian just quoted me. I don't know if you know about this.
No,
it's about this.
No.
So they said, influencer doctor sparks fear in the UK. This was the headline. Yeah, you can use that as your soundbite if you want. They over, influencer. Yeah, there was articles in the Guardian. I thought, maybe my disease reversal and diabetes, obesity would be something that the Carnivore would cover. But instead they said, influencer doctor, sparks fear over sunscreen. So, and this is you're laughing, but this is my life, you so yeah. So where did this start? In 2019, there was a study in the Journal of American Medical Association showing that the chemical sunscreen is absorbed in our kids' skin, and it's actually found in levels that would require it to be studied. And this was published, and I said, this is the ultimate time to pause. Everybody should switch to mineral-based sunscreen or just shade, or, avoiding the sun. Like, not to avoid the sun, but avoid getting burnt.
Yeah.
Right? And that you should be really careful about what you put on your skin. This was the tweet. And somehow, like, now 5 years later, they say this is where the fear of sunscreen came from, this influencer doctor, because I guess it went viral at the time. And they said, we found out where this started, and it was from you. And the journalist called me up, they interviewed me, and I was like, you can't say that. Like, all I said was, be careful what you put on your skin and on your kids' skin.
That's
right. Well, and you know what? And it's funny, they said, this influencer factor is causing unnecessary fear, but the NHS is actually lowering the legal limit by 2/3 because of him and this stuff. Right. So they said I cause unnecessary fear, but in the same article said, oh, the NHS is now lowering the amount. How about just giving none of this to your kids and using a mineral-based sunscreen and a low inflammatory diet? So maybe they don't need so much sunscreen. Yeah. And my, like my daughter, I don't want her putting, these vegetable oils on. Like, it's just an inflammatory product. It's certainly the chemicals. Your body absorbs these things. It's unnecessary. I'm not saying, like, you can still have cosmetic products. Maybe you want to get something like a deodorant without parabens, without aluminum, without, glycols, it's just something with a little bit more basic, maybe just a neutral element, a buffer, right? So that, maybe you don't smell the same, or maybe if you're going to use a sunscreen, you use something with mineral, right? A mineral-based sunscreen. Like, it's not like you have to be, there's always, just like with the fast food discussion, there's always a path to doing something better. So yeah, that's my take on it. Just be careful what you put on your skin, the shampoos, like the everyday stuff you put on your eyes. I cannot tell you how many women I've seen with styes and infections because of the makeup they put on their eyes, the stuff they put in their eyes. Reevaluate. You really need these things. If you're happily married and got 2 kids, you really got to put stuff on your eyes.
But also, people will say to me when I have this conversation, but everything is so expensive, I can't afford to replace everything. Well, you can replace everything one at a time. Like, have it in the back of your head. When you run out of whatever lotion you are currently using on your face, replace it with something natural. When you run out of your shampoo, replace it with something natural. You don't have to go spend, $300 or $400 and replace everything all at once. I mean, that would be great if you can do it. But don't feel like you have to do that. You can't unknow things. And if you know that these things are bad for you and causing things like infertility, ADHD in your children, they're hormone disruptors. If you know those things are causing trouble, just start replacing them one at a time as you run out. Don't feel the pressure necessarily to do it all at once unless you can afford that. But definitely start replacing them. That's what I did. I started replacing my makeup, the things that I would run out of. I started replacing them just one at a time. And I tried to be mindful. The next time I was, going to buy shampoo or lotion, or I just started replacing things one at a time. And even that can make a huge difference.
The problem is it goes deeper and deeper and deeper down a rabbit hole. Okay. The first thing you're like, let's just go through the things. The first thing is the soaps, the hand soaps, the shampoos. Mm-hmm. If you got young kids, the baby wipes, the talcum powder, the baby powder, the diapers, right? If you have older kids, right, the toothpaste, the toothbrush, the hand soaps, like, nobody thinks about this. The plastics in a floss stick, right? The plastics in a floss stick, one of the biggest sources of microplastics in our body is the floss sticks, right? Because it's going right into our blood supply, right? Because when we brush our teeth, if you're getting a toothbrush head from China, right? Like the microplastics from rubbing on your teeth, just these small little things you wouldn't even think about, right? And then you go deeper and deeper. The mouthwash. Do I need the mouthwash? The toothpaste. What's in my toothpaste, right? Dental fluorosis is a real phenomenon. The CDC has even acknowledged it. The IQ effects of excessive fluoride have been known in the kids, in young kids, and in the parents of, moms who are pregnant. And they just other things you'd never think about, the dishwasher, the laundry detergent, the household items you use to clean. I mean, if you have kids and you're cleaning the floor with the most toxic thing, like they're crawling on it, putting it in their mouths, when you go on your lawn and you spread that Scott's, yard seed or whatever, how you're walking on that, it's coming in your house, all these things nobody wants to think about it. And even to some people who are listening, there may be an eye roll of like how far you go, but this is what we've accepted in our modern world. This is the assault we've accepted. Now, I didn't even discuss food. I mean, forget about the snacks, what your nuts are roasted in, the additives in your foods, all the ingredients they've added, the preservatives they've added, the sugar that they've added, right? The fact that even your fruit has been bred to be twice as much sugar, half as much fiber. Like the more and more you go down this rabbit hole and the worse it gets. And then you're like, let me solve some of this.
Right.
Let me solve some of this. And you get RO water and you're like, holy shit. All of a sudden you're like, I'm getting pure water, no microplastics and nothing, but now there's no solute, there's no ions, right? The calcium's gone, the magnesium's gone, the salts are gone out of your water, right? So then, this is the problem of trying to be like, you're thinking about purifying the air. So you get an air exchanger, but you live in an area that has a laundry plant like 1 mile down. And now you're, getting these other contaminants in your air by exchanging your air. So, or you get a HEPA filter and you don't change it and those get moldy, right? All these things, it's like you can go, I mean, I'm probably giving schizophrenia to your listener right now, just thinking about every little thing, but there's doctors out there who've thought this through for you. And this is the beauty of what being the kind of doctor that I am is. I got a 90th percentile on my board exam. I got a 90th percentile on my obesity board exam. So I know medicine better than most of your doctors out there. I've published studies, but I've also taken time to think about everything doctors haven't even thought to think of. That oftentimes is relegated to alternative medicine. And this is the importance, this is the type of medical practice we're making, sort of a cross between modern medicine and common sense. And we have, 2 doctors, 2 other amazing doctors. We have a PA. We have 4 amazing health coaches. I mean, we use technology to help people regain their health. I mean, we are smart about labs. We're smart about prevention. We're smart about cancer prevention, heart disease prevention. And it's taking all of these little thoughts and making a clear plan for the patient to go on a health journey to reclaim their health, because the government's not going to do it. And sadly, most people out there don't know how to do it. So you were talking about how I became the, outsider doctor. I'm not. I was chief resident in an internal medicine program, and I was the best doctor in my class. And I'm not. I am one of them and I'm one of us.
Yeah.
Right? I got one foot in both camps.
Right.
So, it's been tough because my colleagues are so dogmatic, but I can speak their language.
Yeah.
And I think the beauty of being in the position where I'm in is I get to help. You see the difference when we publish our studies. We published a study showing a 44% reduction in cardiovascular risk, right? So, by doing everything we just said, we put into practice. So sometimes I don't need the medical people. I'm fine being an outsider because I just showed them my report card. Mm-hmm. I'm just like, our average patient loses 43 pounds. How much are your patients losing? Right. Our average risk reduction is 44%. Show me what your patients are losing. So, I've sort of mingled with them long enough that I'm one of them, and yet I'm still different. And I'm fine with that. We're doing well.
Yeah. And I think for people listening, you have to be your own advocate. So if you're going to your doctor and your doctor is not prescribing lifestyle changes and things like that for you, you need to find a doctor who is open-minded and willing to help you with that. So if you're somebody in that situation looking for help and you don't have a functional medicine doctor near you or somebody that's willing to help you with those things, how do people find a doctor like you?
We're easy. We're nationwide. All of our doctors are nationwide. Our PAs nationwide. Our health coaches can reach you nationwide. We even have international health coaching. We work with companies that have hired us in the Netherlands, England, Canada, right? So we are nationwide for medical care, and our app and our technology, we can help people worldwide. So we are licensed everywhere. Sorry, Alaska. Sorry, Honolulu. Sorry, Hawaii. We don't have licenses there. We can get them, but we don't have a huge volume there yet. So, but we are available to everybody, and we are probably a cross between functional medicine, a cross between great metabolic medicine. Like all of our docs are metabolic health doctors and serving in a role in a metabolic health organization. And I mean, Laura, the first doctor we hired, Dr. Laura, she was like the 99th percentile in her family. She's even smarter than me. Wow. So you're getting like the best of both worlds. We have some lines that we draw, like, we're not quite into the peptides yet. I'm not sure we will be. We have some lines we draw, but we're pretty damn good. I hate to toot our own horn, but we're pretty damn good and available.
That's awesome. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on, was to talk about your new practice. I think it's amazing. And I think you're going to do great things.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it's been 8 years, and we've grown. We started as a New York-based practice, and now we're in 48 states, multiple docs, and still growing and putting out research and giving back, and we have a free app. That's another thing, right? If you're a health coach out there, you want to give a resource to your clients. If you're, just want to sort of mess around with metabolic health, carnivore, keto, low carb, we have a free low carb class starting in literally a week, where you can just join live coaches, live doctors, get insight for a week, for 4 weeks, once a week, with like sort of articles, and it's free. So that's the Toward Health app. Sorry to plug, but
no, I wanted you to plug. That's great. I'm just going to ask you. Yeah. Toward Health.
Yep.
TOWARD.
Right.
Yep. So Toward Health, you guys get that app, and how?
And the website is toward.health.
Okay.
Yes.
So everybody go to the website, learn about the classes, and get their information in case you need help or you're looking for this new wave of doctors. You gotta step it up, and you gotta take care of yourself. And if you're sick and your doctors can't explain it and they just want to put you on medication, look up Toward.health.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. And thank you guys for joining. We'll see you next time on the Carnivore Revolution.